Okay, so the Professional Master of Education and the PME programme in Art and Design in the School of Education in NCD is a level 9, 2 years master's programme, and this leads you to a professional qualification to teach art and design at second level here in Ireland and also abroad. So it's a qualification that is internationally recognised, and we've graduating students that are teaching across Europe and also actually in the United States. So the qualification is recognised by the Teaching Council, who regulate the teaching profession in Ireland, and they also ratify our programmes in institutes of initial teacher education across Ireland. So the academic calendar will run from September to May of each year. And although students will be placed in school in probably around late August, just to familiarise themselves with your host teacher and also with your host school. So the programme is a big commitment, and I can answer any questions about that later on. It is 5 days a week, and it is basically 9:30 in the morning to 4:30 in the afternoon, late afternoon, and often beyond as well. So it's made up of a combination of school placement and then on-site engagement with lectures and workshops, and also studio-based inquiry. So this is an overview of the structure of the PME programme. And there's 120 credits in all. As I said, it's a level 9, it's a master's level. So there's 60 credits for each year. And then there's, this is made up of school placement. It's made up of foundation and professional studies and visual arts pedagogy and methodologies. And then I'm going to describe them now in greater detail as we move through the slide deck. Okay, so if I can go through school placement. So school placement spans basically across the whole year of the PME programme in both years. And in year 1, there's an initial engagement whereby the student teacher observes their host teacher on placement. And then this is followed by a short period of team teaching in terms of building your confidence, and then on the ground within the school. And then the student teacher takes full responsibility for their designated classes. And this is both in junior and senior cycle and post-primary. So in the first trimester, this amounts to 2 days per week, Monday and Tuesday. And then this is followed by a school placement block in the second trimester, and that is from January to March, and that's 7 weeks in total. And where they also would be teaching at around 10 to 12 hours per week. So then in year 2 of the PME programme, we also have 2 school placement blocks, and one is in trimester 1, and then one is in trimester 2. So in year 2, it's really all about recognising and valuing what the student teacher has learned in the first year of the programme to underpin their design and their delivery of their units of learning and their approaches to teaching and learning on school placement. And also students then will partake in the inclusive education module. And this is where the PME students design and implement an art and design collaborative project, taking into account the core values of equality, diversity, and also inclusion. And this is all about understanding differentiation, inclusive education, building awareness and empathy, I suppose, among our student teachers. And it's usually a really transformative experience. So then in year 2, we encourage innovative and imaginative approaches to teaching through the student teacher, creating, again, meaningful cross-curricular integration, teaching art and design through the lens of social justice and environmental sustainability. And then also we recognise how the key skills and methods of formative assessment are embedded within the pedagogical approach. So during this time, you're supported to design curriculum and to resource students' learning through lectures in pedagogy and methodology. You also take part in simulated lessons, and also each student will be assigned and designate an SP tutor, and they will facilitate planning tutorials. And then we do about 3 supervisions where we come out and visit you on school placement, and then you have a post-tutorial after that, where we kind of discuss and advise you on your teaching practice. Okay, so then another thing, I suppose, that's very much a distinguishing factor in relation to our PME programme here in the National College of Art and Design is how we recognise you as artists, researchers and teachers first and foremost. And there is a real commitment to the centrality of subject-based learning in art and design. So our programme is very much around supporting you in your practice as artist, as designer, as researcher through a sustained immersion in studio inquiry. So prior to you coming to us, you will have a degree in either, you know, a fine art or a design discipline. And we very much recognize this first and foremost, I suppose, is a very important part of your identity. And then how you understand your practice as an artist, as a designer, the methodology that informs that very much then is how we encourage you to teach when you're out there with your young learners on school placement. And one of the guiding principles, like we always talk about it in NCED, is that art teacher education is not centrally concerned with the teaching of art or teaching about art, but it's very much expressly committed to teaching through art and through practice. Okay, so, and this very much is how we orientate to you to teach through your practice as artist, as teacher, and these modules are all about studio inquiry. So the visual arts pedagogy and methodology modules, they're delivered throughout the year. They're embedded into the curriculum in the PME programme. And this encompasses basically art and design education, teaching methods and pedagogical approaches. And the purpose of this module is to provide you as students with both a theoretical and also a practical understanding of key processes of teaching and learning. So the visual arts in the classroom modules are all about facilitating the student teachers with a space to re-engage and to re-encounter with their practice as artists and designers, and their discipline of study, whatever you did on your undergraduate degree. And these modules encompass practical studio-based workshops in drawing and painting, in print, in ceramics, in construction, in design, and in digital media, where we actually get you to create a photo narrative through an immersion in lens-based arts. And then we also have a very particular intervention that we do called the Change Lab, which hopefully, I may not actually, in terms of me having a lot of issues with my slides tonight, but I was hoping to show you a video on the Change Lab, which gives you an understanding of how the students work through the process of engaging with human rights and social justice through the lens of their practices as artists and designers. Now, so then this is in year one, some of the content we cover, and there's several components to the foundation and professional studies module. So there is the psychology of education, and that's delivered by my colleague, Dr. Isabel Mullaney. And this course provides an introduction to educational psychology and examines the link between theory and research and current professional practice. And the module will concentrate on basically practical applications of psychology within educational contexts and in terms of working with young people. And then it outlines historical approaches to education research, and also it introduces the key paradigms in terms of educational research. And then there is the module of history and philosophy of education. And really, this module provides students with the capacity to discuss and also to consider the purposes of education and their own professional relationship with the process of education. And it focuses on the integration of aspects of contemporary Irish education, and it makes linkages with current issues in curriculum, how we conceptualize curriculum, curriculum policy and practice and arts education. And these issues are kind of addressed throughout the module from both a historical and a philosophical perspective. And then we have curriculum assessment, and this module addresses the meaning of curriculum in education in terms of the principles, the values, and also the ideologies that underpin your conceptualization of curriculum and the formation of curriculum in various contexts and at different times through the history of Irish curriculum. And there's also a particular focus on the relationship between curriculum and assessment and the synergy between both, and looking at assessment for learning and assessment of learning, so kind of formative and summative practices. Okay, and we also actually have sociology of education, but we've moved that into year two, and students are introduced during this time during sociology to kind of key thinkers in the field and approaches to sociology of education. And also they will be challenged to apply sociological insights into their own past and their own current educational experiences. And particular attention in this module is given to kind of contemporary issues in relation to education. So this would be included or including issues around gender, around disability, around inclusion, around identity, around culture and also subcultures. So as we move into then year 2, where the actual sociology module lies, we have also a module in peer teaching. And again, this is a module that student teachers gain a huge amount out of. It's quite self-directed. It's designed specifically to recognise the qualities and the expertise that the learners themselves have brought to the programme. And it's very much student-centred. And to a large extent, as I said, it's peer-led, student-led. And what you do during this process of the peer learning module is you take maybe one aspect of either your teaching practice or your artist practice, and you deliver a workshop to your fellow peers, and you share resources. So there's huge kind of collaborative engagement and communities of practice as well that form during this module. So then we also have professional portfolio, and that's delivered by my colleague Tony Murphy. And sorry, the peer learning is delivered by my colleague Brenda O'Reilly Hughes. And the professional portfolio is really, it's part of your preparation in terms of your professional career and education, and for the continuation of your continuing professional development throughout your career as a lifelong learner. And this professional portfolio will contain a range of materials, basically reflective of your personal experience and your professional experience while on the PME programme. And it's something that's quite significant, and often it will be presented when you are going to look for jobs and at interviews. And then there's the reflective essay, and this is basically a reflection on your experience of becoming artist teacher. It's a really kind of lovely, actually, a lovely part of the PME programme, because it's all about reflecting on what led you to this point, you know, what were the seminal influences, you know, from a young age, you know, moving through into your career, in whatever capacity that was, and the tensions and synergy that exists within that kind of dual identity of being artist teacher. And then also the thesis, that is quite a substantial module. It's weighted 15 credits. And this is where you choose a research project. And typically what students usually focus on is an aspect of their experience of teaching and learning within the school context. And each student works under the supervision. You're designated a supervisor. And it potentially can be an action research project where you take one aspect of your teaching and you maybe wish to inquire about this and maybe wish to change or reimagine something about your practice as an educator. You will gather data out there in the field with your students. You will analyse that, and you will obviously put a theoretical framing around it in terms of the literature that you read. Just to give you some context about the Change Lab, this is kind of a really significant intervention that we do, and it's 4 weeks. And you go down into the gallery space and you work within the gallery space for 4 weeks alongside myself and my colleague Tony Murphy, who lead the module, and you explore a range of human rights and social justice thematics, and you basically create a body of work around a particular issue that interests you, and you work collaboratively. And then we have a really big event at the end of it where you invite a public audience into the gallery space and you speak about your work, and you obviously show your work. Usually the work takes the form of an installation, but what is really important about this project is you re-encounter and you are substantially recognised as an artist and designer during this time, and you are really submersed in, again, your practice of working collaboratively and, you know, working through that process of, you know, conceptualizing ideas through materials, you know, looking at your practice as an artist, looking at how you collaborate with others as an artist. And then what we do is in year 2, we bring all that learning and it underpins your units of learning that you translate into the classroom. So how you resource your units of learning, you become much clearer in relation to the potential of cross-curricular integration, in relation to the potential of exploring human rights and social justice and environmental themes with your young learners. The Change Lab locates global citizenship education into the heart of learning within the professional master of Education program in the National College of Art and Design in a way that instills a motivation and awareness to teach for social justice and climate sustainability?
I think it's incredibly important to bring social justice into the classroom and to help students navigate the world that they're going to be entering into after secondary school, and to help them navigate what it is to comment on social issues in art.
How they do this is through their practice as artists, researchers, and teachers. And this creates a sustainable pedagogy that they move beyond the gallery space and translate into their experience out of the classroom on school placement.
Well, for our group, we found it very beneficial to get out into the community, as that's one of the things we were looking into. We went out with the intention to find out what the community wants and just to experience those places where the community would congregate and have these conversations that we were kind of looking forward to. And these spaces provide a space for these conversations to kind of happen. And it was a really nice experience.
This space really just validates us as artists. And it's also really nice to see the public walking past the window and taking such a strong interest in the work. It's just really encouraging for us every day to see that.
I thought it was very interesting to step back into our art practices and becoming an artist again. It's something that I feel like I stepped away from when I was teaching, and it was very hard to go back to it and try to write up a unit of learning or write up a lesson plan when you're not thinking of an artist, you're not thinking of the student either. And remember how much I like it as well. I think that was a big thing.
So it was really nice to re-familiarize ourselves with the processes that we asked students to complete in the classroom. And it was really good to get first-hand experience of doing the respond, research, and create as artists again, and then how we can bring that back into the classroom.
So we decided to look at the idea of care within education. So as future educators, we felt it was really important that we examine the system that we were entering into. And we noticed quite quickly that there was a lack of discourse around care in education, and that care is really integral to our educational experience and our experience as humans.
So thinking about yourself both as an educator and an artist, I'm really thinking how both can interplay and how your thinking process and how you respond to your artistic practice kind of form how you teach and subjects that you can teach.
This year, there was a particular emphasis on reflexive practice in terms of the formation of the artist teacher. So they were asked to maintain a reflective journal over the process of the Change Lab, a pause for thought notebook. And during this time, they explored 3 different key areas of inquiry. They explored the practice of their artist teacher formation and becoming pedagogical. They explored the materials that they used to respond to the issue that they were focusing on. They also thought about the significance and the importance of place, the expectation and the weight and the validation of being in the gallery. They also sought for answers beyond the enclosures of the white walls to search for places that authenticated their inquiry.
The emphasis, I think, on research during the Change Lab really gave us the confidence to kind of explore outside of the gallery space. And we went and met people who kind of taught us new skills, gave us loads of information and their knowledge, and then brought that all back into the gallery space and really created a lab environment where we replicated what we learned and then experimented with what we learned.
From this project, I think I've came up with loads of ideas for units of learning and lesson plans as well. This whole Change Lab, I've learned so much from other people's projects and things I've never even thought about before. I think our teachers in general, if they're coming to the Change Lab, will learn a lot from it and they'll be able to bring it into their classrooms.
It was a great experience to collaborate with a group, to get out of your comfort zone and get out of the teaching space and step back in the gallery space and really immerse yourself back into your practice. I feel like maybe the characteristics that you bring to a group, the different group dynamics and how we work together. And I just felt like the experience was invaluable.
I think then as a teacher going forward, the experience has really taught us to encourage and support all the change makers that are already in our art rooms now. And that has been a wonderful confidence to have that after the Change Lab.
As artists, designers, and as educators, we feel it's very important to acknowledge the concept of pausing for thought, to take a moment to acknowledge all that you have
and to be able to make considered and conscious decisions.
In the spirit of reflection during this change lab, we ask you too, the viewer, to pause for thought, to think beyond the self and consider how we live our lives amongst each other. But basically, your application, I think, Camille, you were saying there that it needs to be in by the 29th of March, is it?
29th of March, yeah, and then they'll
Yeah.
be reviewed, yeah.
So that would be to guarantee an academic review. So basically, I'm just letting people in here. I can see kind of admit.
Oh, somebody is just joined you.
Yeah. So basically what you need in terms of the application, and it's all on the site, is a statement of interest in terms of your interest in the PME program and why you feel you'd be a strong candidate, a current CV, and then also 2 references. So one might be a reference in terms of your work, and then the other should be an academic reference in relation to your primary degree or your master's degree. And then we also need your transcripts from your degree programs that you took part in, and possibly also masters. And then the stages we go through is that you need to have your application in by the 29th of March. And then it goes through academic review, where we look at all the different candidates. And then we select a number of candidates that are called for interview. Hopefully we'll be interviewing you in June. And then if you are called for interview, you'll also submit a portfolio, and then the acceptance should go out to you, hopefully between June and July. So that basically is the time frame. Okay, so will I stop share and then maybe answer any questions there might be?
Yeah, there's a fair few questions. I might read them out to you and you can,
Yeah.
you know the answers, or I might know some. First of all, is the placement paid?
No, unfortunately
think so.
not. Yeah, and that is a very good question, whoever's asked that, because I know with nursing, absolutely the final